You never know when life will take a turn you didn't expect. It started with a simple question on a chilly autumn evening in Central Park: do you think people are born lucky, or do they make their own luck? That question wasn't just small talk. It was the beginning of a story so incredible that it changed two lives forever. One man, homeless and forgotten. The other, the youngest son of a former president. What happened next will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about kindness, fate, and the power of a single encounter. Let me tell you about Charles. He's in his late 40s, with tired eyes and a kind face. Charles wasn't always homeless. He used to be a teacher, a great one. He loved inspiring young minds, sharing stories, and helping kids believe they could achieve anything. Teaching wasn't just his job, it was his passion. But life has a way of throwing curveballs. Charles's troubles began when the school he worked for faced budget cuts. His position was eliminated. Then came the divorce. The stress took a toll on his health and his finances. One bad thing led to another, and before he knew it, he lost his home. For years, Charles struggled to get back on his feet. But every door seemed to close on him. The one thing he clung to was an old, tattered copy of Dreams from My Father by Barack Obama. He found it at a shelter years ago, and it gave him hope. It reminded him that even in the hardest of times, dreams could still come true. Now, let's talk about the other person in this story, Barron. You might know the name, Barron Trump, the youngest son of the former president. But on this particular evening, he wasn't a public figure. He was just an 18-year-old trying to make sense of his life. Barron grew up in a world of privilege, surrounded by wealth and power. But that kind of life can be lonely, especially when people only see you for your last name. Barron always felt like he was living in someone else's shadow, struggling to find his own identity. On this chilly autumn evening, Barron decided he needed a break from it all. He slipped out of the luxury hotel where his family was staying, pulled up his hoodie, and walked to Central Park. He wasn't sure what he was looking for. Maybe a sense of normalcy, or maybe just a connection with the real world. Barron found himself at Bethesda Fountain, where he spotted Charles sitting on a bench, reading aloud from his book. There was something about the way Charles spoke, his voice was steady and full of passion. Barron sat down quietly next to him, unsure of what to say. After a few moments of silence, Charles noticed the young man and said, "Nice evening, isn't it?" Barron didn't respond right away. He kept staring at the fountain, lost in thought. Then he finally asked, "Do you think people are born lucky, or do they make their own luck?" Charles smiled. It wasn't the kind of question he usually got from strangers. He said, "Luck? Well, it's a mix. Some folks start ahead in the race, but everyone's got to run it." That simple answer opened the floodgates. The two started talking. Charles shared his story, how he had lost everything but never gave up hope. He spoke about his dreams of opening a school for kids who didn't have much, of helping them believe in themselves. Barron listened intently. For the first time in a long time, someone wasn't treating him like a Trump or a celebrity. Charles saw him as just another human being. Barron, in turn, shared his struggles, the pressure of living up to his family's name, the isolation that came with fame, and his desire to do something meaningful with his life. Their conversation stretched into the evening. Charles shared vivid memories from his teaching days, the moments when he saw kids light up with understanding, the letters of gratitude he'd received from students long after they'd graduated. He spoke about the pride he felt, and how losing that role left him feeling like he'd lost a piece of himself. Barron, for his part, opened up in a way he never had before. He described the pressure of constantly being under scrutiny, the loneliness of feeling like people only cared about his family's name, not who he was as a person. He confessed that he often wondered if he could ever make a difference on his own terms. Charles responded with wisdom that only comes from experience. He said, "You don't have to be perfect to make a difference. You just have to show up and try." Those words stuck with Barron. Barron left with a promise to himself that night, though he didn't share it with Charles. The next morning, Charles woke up to find an envelope on the bench beside him. Inside was a letter and a business card. The letter read, "Charles, thank you for sharing your story. You've inspired me more than you know. Let's make those dreams happen. Call this number." It was signed, "Your friend, Barron." Charles hesitated. He'd been let down so many times before. But something about the letter felt genuine. He called the number and was connected to a representative from an organization that helps homeless individuals rebuild their lives. It was all real. Within weeks, Charles had access to temporary housing, counseling, and, most importantly, a chance to teach again. At first, Charles was nervous stepping back into a classroom. The community center wasn't a traditional school, but it was filled with kids who needed someone to believe in them. Charles quickly found his rhythm, using his life experiences to connect with his students on a deeper level. He became more than a teacher, he became a mentor. Barron, meanwhile, stayed involved behind the scenes. He funded supplies, helped with outreach, and visited the center anonymously to see the impact Charles was making. Their unlikely friendship grew stronger, built on mutual respect and shared purpose. Charles often reflected on how far he'd come. He told his students, "It's not where you start that matters. It's what you do with the chances you're given." His words carried weight because they came from someone who had lived it. Today, the community center is a thriving hub of hope and learning, thanks to Charles and Barron. Charles has helped dozens of kids believe in themselves and their futures. Barron, once unsure of his own path, found purpose in helping others. Two people from completely different worlds crossed paths on a park bench, and their lives changed forever. Charles found a way to reignite his passion and purpose. Barron discovered that true wealth isn't measured in money or fame but in the impact you have on others. So next time you see someone sitting on a park bench, don't just walk by. You never know whose life you might change, or whose story might change yours. Kindness knows no boundaries. If this story touched you, share it with someone who needs a little inspiration today.